All right, next up we have the incredibly important topic of DAX measures. Now, by definition, measures are DAX formulas that are used to generate new calculated values. So, a couple important things to note about measures. Like calculated columns, they reference entire tables or columns. So again, no A1 style or grid references like you would use in Excel. But unlike calculated columns, the measure values aren't actually visible in your tables. In fact, you can only see measure values within a visualization, like a chart or a matrix. So for those of you with Excel backgrounds, think of measures the same way you'd think about a calculated field in an Excel pivot. That calculated field doesn't exist anywhere else. You can't see it in tables. You only see it within that Excel pivot table itself. Now, measures in Power BI operate the same way. You can only see them when you drag them into the values field of a visualization. So while calculated columns were evaluated based on row context, measures are evaluated based on filter context. It's a little bit of a tricky concept to wrap your head around, but what I mean by that is that these measures, the values they take, constantly recalculate whenever the fields or filters around them change. So if you drag a new field or dimension into the row or column labels of a matrix, or if you apply new filters to your report, in each of those cases, you're changing the filter context and you're changing the value that that measure should return. So to summarize, as a rule of thumb, you're going to use measures, not calculated columns, when a single row isn't going to be able to give you an answer. In other words, when you need to aggregate. And a pro tip for remembering this, remember that measures are used to create numerical, calculated values that you can analyze in the values field of your report visuals. So if we actually look at the report pane in our AdventureWorks file, you'll see that we've actually already been using measures. We just didn't know we were using them quite yet. And the way we used measures was simply by dragging those fields into the values pane here. And you'll note that this little arrow tells us that we're looking at the sum of this particular numerical field, order quantity. And what we've done is actually create an implicit measure by doing that. So we're going to talk about implicit versus explicit measures in a bit, but check it out. You've already got a head start on understanding how measures work. So with that, we've done our intro to measures. We've done our intro to calculated columns. Let's take a minute to compare the two side by side and then move on and get a little bit deeper into how DAX really works.